It is far too common for someone to feel hopeless through their work. Maybe they live paycheck to paycheck. Maybe they have poor work conditions. Most individuals likely feel like their employer doesn't care about them. Unfortunately, this is a sad truth that is present in our capitalistic society, as well as in Lethal Companies. Lethal Company is a game that took the internet by storm. It follows you, the player, who has 3 days to go into different abandoned facilities on various planets to acquire scrap, which ranges from toys to radioactive material, and even garbage, which you then sell to the company to meet their profit quota. The money you make can be used to buy equipment, from the company, of course, to assist with your quota gathering adventures. These things can be teleporters or shovels, which can be used for survival or betrayal. That's pretty much as simple as this game gets. I mean, along the way, you may encounter some odd creatures, have somewhat detailed info written about them by a previous employee, Sigurd, who also leaves numerous personal accounts of his work experience. Through Sigurd, not only are we able to analyze what the player experiences, but we can also analyze a previous employee to show how Lethal Company is a game about the replaceability of the average worker. I mean, your first day on the job, you're literally called a great asset to the company.
We trust you will be a great asset to the company.
But let's just get into it. Initially, the first quota may seem easy to achieve. After all, with some practice, you can get 10 times the first quota in one day. Unfortunately, this doesn't last for long. The company doesn't care how close you come to the quota or what you buy from them to help yourself do a better job. The quota increases more and more every cycle. Sigurd and his team were very proficient at this job, to say the least. From their first log until their last, we find they went through 18 quotas, which is tied with the current world record in the vanilla game. But eventually, the quota becomes unachievable, even for Sigurd. Quote, "We can barely sleep to meet the quota, and it gets worse every time," end quote. Eventually, you and Sigurd get fired. This is a parallel to what happens in certain companies today. Ever-increasing performance measures lead to more injury or unachievable productivity. In addition to this, Sigurd and his crew discover that the people behind the company don't even reside at the company building. Quote, "Desmond traced the call and found out there's a group of people somewhere else that pretends to call us from the company building. They're across the whole solar system," end quote. This provides a further divide between the people and who they work for, much like how your average Amazon driver will never be within the vicinity of Jeff Bezos. This begs the question, why would a company still be willing to get rid of their employees who are the main profit drivers? Well, to answer that is fairly simple. They can just hire new employees. When a company is looking for employees, especially when their qualifications are low, numerous applicants are waiting to be hired. The company in the game is no exception. It's even more extreme, in fact. When you get fired, you don't get to just go back home. You get ejected into space, killing you. Then 4 new employees come and take your ship to continue this never-ending flow of money to the company. Not only that, but when someone in your crew dies, a new employee gets hired on. This holds true for Sigurd as well, after having lost his coworker, Rich. Quote, "We're supposed to get our 4th member of the crew in a few days," end quote. How does an employee die, though? I've partially alluded to the fact that the facilities you explore aren't the safest, but let's dive into how unsafe they really are. Starting with Sigurd's coworker, Rich, who suffered the same fate as many players have, the Bracken.
The character just was for 84 pounds. I am a hit.
As Sigurd said, quote, "I looked and Rich wasn't there. It was the flowerhead man. It turned his neck," end quote. He's not even the worst. There are massive spiders, bees, thumpers, fleas, slime, bugs, lizards, giant worms, birds, dogs, nutcrackers, jesters, a little girl, mimics, giants, who are basically just a big toddler, and arguably the worst of all, koala heads, who you can't look away from. Sound familiar? Those are just the monsters. Dangerous jumps, guard turrets, and even landmines are present in nearly every facility you enter. In addition to that, the planets you land on could have terrible weather, quicksand, lakes, or cliffs. It's extremely evident that this has a toll on Sigurd, as it would for anyone. Quote, I've had the worst dreams. I think I just want to go back home. Every time I go outside, I get pale like I'm dead. It's just that I saw Rich on a hill. End quote. While most places in our modern society don't treat workers like those in Lethal Company, it doesn't take away from the fact that some places have horrible work practices, showing what corporations would do worldwide if they could. It's obvious that you can't treat your employees poorly and expect to get away with it. So, just like we have our many forms of entertainment to distract us, in game, you can buy tons of fun little things like pajamas, a television, a pet goldfish, decorations to make your ship home, and much more. You can graffiti if that's your thing, or fly around with a jetpack. Some of these items are even designed to assist you with your work. Much like consumerism in our society, things like this are usually purchased from the same entities that just see us as a statistic. We are stuck in this societal construct of needing to buy things at the price of selling our time to our employers. As Lebanese poet Khalil Gibran said, quote, They deem me mad because I will not sell my days for gold, and I deem them mad because they think my days have a price. End quote. There is another way for individuals to calm their worries about this constant grind. For Sigurd, there's a golden planet. Quote, He told me the golden planet actually existed, just as the golden planet is just a story. End quote. For us, we might just wish we had $1 million. The idea is that if you had just a little more, you wouldn't have to worry about work anymore. But when it comes down to it, you're still just hoping you can be productive enough to please the company and not be fired. In the end, Lethal Company really goes unnoticed for its allusions to the pitfall of the hired hand. After all, the game is so much fun, and you can just get lost in the screams and laughter you have with your friends, or even alone. And even though many employers couldn't care less about their employees, in the grand scheme of things, they at least try. In addition to this, we have laws put in place, and OSHA, that prevent work conditions from being overly hazardous like those in Lethal Company. I mean, statistically, none of us will ever work the deadliest job in America, which, believe it or not, is the president. Unlike in Lethal Company, I believe we as a society are very good at combating corporate rule. Unions have been a major part of the American workforce and are only continuing to become more significant as time goes on. But it is still a problem that could lead to drastic situations in the future if left unchecked.